anytime during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, what does government expect from NGOs or non-governmental organizations considering the provisions in the National NGO policy? Non-governmental organizations have become very instrumental in bridging the gap as far as service delivery is concerned by helping government in providing timely interventions in many sectors. NGOs are very visible in the education, health, and household income initiatives, and in most cases they provide quality interventions better than those offered by the government. These organizations do not work in isolation. They are under the strict monitoring of the National NGO Board, which is housed at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. This ministry put in place the National NGO policy upon which its actions are based, and the board has several other responsibilities, but critical is the fact that an NGO cannot operate in Uganda without being vetted and registered by this board. Now, while the work of the board is appreciated, there have been complaints from some NGOs that the board is becoming a political tool to threaten the freedom and work of such NGOs. The most recent case involves Accord, which was under scrutiny for its role in supporting the democratization and accountability programs. The Ministry of Internal Affairs has insisted that NGOs must concentrate on what they were registered to do and should keep away from partisan politics. Now, the NGOs have also come under the spotlight over the sources of income. There have been accusations of abuse of funds by some of them. Now, as of today, the NGO board is said to be carrying out an evaluation to ascertain how many NGOs we have in this country, what they are doing, and against what they were registered to do. So tonight we look at the NGO policy, the National NGO policy, to try and understand what is expected of NGOs. We will also seek to understand if these organizations are making any impact, or are they misusing the funds they receive on behalf of the populace. Our guests tonight, Ambassador Gabriel Kangwage, Chairman of the National NGO Board at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. You're most welcome, Ambassador Kangwage.
Thank you very much.
We're also joined by Mr. Simon Nangiro, Acting Secretary of the NGO Board at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. You're most welcome, Mr. Nangiro.
Thank you.
Ambassador Kangwage, what are non-governmental organizations supposed to do?
Well, thank you very much. You have just given it a background. First of all, these non-governmental organizations, actors, have got a very important role to play in the development of this country. So their role is to help the community, to fill a gap where the government has not reached. So they have a very fundamental role to play. So, what is a non-governmental organization supposed to be? It is supposed to be a body corporate now, which has got a mission to help certain needs of the community in a given area. And once they have already identified the needs of the people, they normally approach the board, which is, as we have mentioned, a government body, which is mandated to register them and give them permit within which to operate. And this permit and the certificate is based on what they have requested to do. And this is registered and put down for the two parties to know and the two parties to comply with. So that's what they are supposed to do.
And what are they doing now?
Well, some of them are doing precisely what I have explained, and many of them. But of course, you get a few of them which sometimes get away from what they are supposed to be doing. And it is our role as a board to keep on monitoring, to keep on coordinating, helping them to get back to what they were registered for. So if you are registered to operate in Mukono or in Kayunga or in Jinja, and we find you operating in Masaka, it is our duty to advise you to go back to where you were registered to do the work.
All right. Mr. Nangiro, are these NGOs, or some of them, overstepping their limits? Explain to us, give us some profile of that. NGOs that are overstepping their limits, not doing what they're supposed to do.
Thank you, moderator. I think, as the ambassador has mentioned, when NGOs apply for a permit, they apply for specific activities. They also apply for the areas in which they want to operate. So that will be the basis on which they will be monitored by the NGO board. When they do anything beyond that, then they go beyond their limits.
Give us a profile of some of those that are recalcitrant, the ones that don't want to do what they're supposed to do.
Actually, I think let me go to your background. You mentioned of some of the recent problems, issues they have talked, and most of those are there is what they call that there is reduced space of NGOs. And actually, if I may give you an example, a good example about that is NGOs can do advocacy. That's allowed. That's provided within the law. But there is a difference, for example, between advocacy and politicking. When you take sides and become biased, that is no longer what? That is no longer advocacy. The same as issues about corruption. When you take the role of the judge and start making judgments, then that is you overstep your role. So those are the thin lines, actually. Those are examples of that. Actually, if you look at the cases which you just mentioned, they have just been on that line. You will notice that all of them were on that thin line in the name of advocacy, but you find that at the same time they are politicking. So that is sometimes, and of course, as given already, you would find an NGO has registered to work in District A, but you just find it's working in other districts or it's implementing other activities. So we usually have such cases.
All right.
Yeah.
Who is supposed to speak out about human rights abuses and corruption?
Yeah, it is NGOs and even Ugandans themselves can talk about human rights abuses. So our constitution actually provides for right of association and the freedom of people. I think that's a fundamental principle in our constitution.
Ambassador Kangwage, recently the NGOs went to Lugogo to try and talk about corruption. They were arrested. Were you disappointed that day?
I don't think they were arrested. This were, of course,
they were blocked. They couldn't display their placards in the end.
Yes, when you want to have an activity and you, first of all, seek permission in this country, particularly if you are a big group and you want to have an activity of a demonstration nature or even expressing your concerns, and you are more than probably a big number, you need to ask permission from police. That's provided under the Police Act. When they went to Uma in Rugogo, it is the business entities that were operating in Rugogo who said we had not been contacted. And I think they sought protection from police. But fortunately, they were quickly helped, and then they moved to another place of their own choice, where they were not even harassed. They went to Tienda, they demonstrated, they are still even demonstrating in that place, and nobody is bothering them and so forth. So there was no arrest whatsoever. And of course, as Simon was mentioning, and which you also mentioned, nobody in this country condones corruption. All of us don't like corruption.
Well, but the thieves like it, don't they?
Well, thieves will also even like your house being open so that they can come in at night. So the government of Uganda, particularly the NRM government, has come out openly to say zero tolerance of corruption. At least it is in the manifesto. It is pronounced and echoed by the leadership. So
the practice is different.
A few individuals who may probably do the wrong things. Of course, there are arms of government which take action. For example, now, this question of the OPM's scandal is before Parliament, and we should give an opportunity to the parliamentary committee to look into it, CID also to investigate, so that natural justice is extended to even those who are being implicated.
Can you give us a background to NGOs in the country? When did they begin to come? Let's look about the recent wave. You can take us even beyond that if you like.
Well, NGOs in this country were way back before we got independence, because some of them came to help with the colonialists, like Oxfam, like CARE. Those came
British-based.
They came to help the British colonial government into the country. Then after before independence, some of them also added on from different countries. And 1962, most of them started coming in. But this was not pronounced very conspicuously until the protracted war of 1986. After the war of 1986, then we got a lot of charitable organizations coming in with the relief, with the aid and so forth. So the government of Uganda realized that there needed to be a mechanism put in place to coordinate and help these charitable organizations which are coming into the country. People are collecting their money from overseas to come and help the plight of our people here. And they put an act of parliament in 1989.
Yes.
In 1989, this act was put in place, and it had been protractedly negotiated by the then NRC, and
which was parliament.
Which was parliament at that time. And I can tell you the one who was coordinating it was Colonel Chiza Besigye, who was then the Minister of State for Internal Affairs.
Yes.
So that's the history of it. Now, it continued. Now, the NGOs changed from now relief distribution to development. So the government deemed it fit now to revisit the act. And in 2006, an amendment of the act was made, now to include a new mandate to the board. And one of them is not only registration, but also monitoring, coordinating, and helping and supervision some of those NGOs and in terms of development. So that's under currently, of course, we are talking about 10,000, to be specific, 10,000 NGOs.
10,000 NGOs.
Registered with us.
Mr. Nangiro, do you register them annually or do you register them once for all?
We register them monthly, on a monthly basis. And
no, I mean, once the registry wants to give them a certificate, they have to come to you every so often?
No, we usually give you for 1 year. Then after 1 year, we give you 3 years. Then we give you 5 years based on your performance.
And that's the longest?
Yeah, that's the longest we can.
Just like our political terms, electoral. Let's talk about these NGOs. What do most of them do?
Yeah, actually, as the ambassador has put it, actually, the NGO sector has been evolving a lot. Traditionally, they used to do relief. They were founded on the principles of charity and humanitarian relief. So as time has gone, they have been involved in development work. And today, as we talk, they do work such as advocacy and on issues such as governance and democracy. So the sector, moreover, the way they operate has also changed. These days they are very complex. They are using the media. They are using some of the strategies, for example, which have been used in political movements and etc. So the sector is becoming complex. But nevertheless, in the context of our country, Uganda here, most of them are contributing a lot in the social service delivery to the people. That is where the majority of them have played a very critical role.
And when you talk about social service delivery, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking of things such as health. If you look, for example, of most of the hospitals in the country, some of them are attributed to the NGOs. If you look at the
Zambia hospital is Catholic.
It's Catholic, you see.
Mengo Hospital.
Mengo.
All those. And schools as well. So those are the kind of...
Nangiro College, St. Mary's.
Name them. Many of them can spread all over the country. All have that background from non-governmental organizations. So that's why they have contributed a lot. Their impact is felt. And should be continue to be supported.
All right, I mean, you've spoken about the old timers, the Catholics, the Anglicans. Let's talk about the ones that came in recently, the ones that came after 1986. What do they do mostly? Agriculture? Talk to us about those.
Yeah, most Pentecostal, most of them actually, you know, after the 80s, we had a lot of war.
Let's talk about the Oxfams, the Action Aids, the World Visions.
That category, that's a category of international NGOs which were founded in foreign countries. Actually, for Oxfam,
it's British based.
British, and yeah,
Action Aid is British based.
British also.
Senegal, British based.
Yeah, but they have branches also in other countries. So these ones have also come. Most of them, first of all, came to do humanitarian relief, and then started development work, and then they are also somehow involved in advocacy. And of course, the argument has been that is providing services only might not be a solution to poverty. So sometimes there is a need for a change in policy, and so that's why you find they contribute so much in the formulation of policies and planning and implementation of government programs as well.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. What does government expect from non-governmental organizations considering the provisions in the National NGO policy? Our guest tonight, Ambassador Gabriel Kangwage, Chairman of the National NGO Board at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. He came with Mr. Simon Nangiro, Acting Secretary of the NGO Board in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. He will be able to contribute to this discussion. Ambassador Kangwage, which of these NGOs trouble you most?
Well, none of them troubles me.
Oh, they're like good children to you?
They are good children, and sometimes when they want to move away from
you spunk them a little bit.
No, we just advise them.
You don't spoil the road.
No, we advise them. We advise them to come back to the main course. Of course, as Simon was mentioning, advocacy. People have tended to misunderstand advocacy. Advocacy should not be confused with political advocacy. For example, advocacy on health care. HIV/AIDS has been helped because some of these NGOs, like the TASO, the AIDS support organizations, have done a commendable job to make aware of the people of the dangers of this scourge. So that's the advocacy we are talking about. Education. Stopping some of these, one would call them traditional cultures, which probably are not good, like mutilation of the women in the Kapchorwa. Those are the issues that we think are being done very commendably by the NGOs. And they are doing it very, very effectively. Even exposing some of the corruption tendencies. Some of the NGOs have come out to say local governments have not done this job. The local governments have, probably dissuaded not to do what they are supposed to do, including central government. Now, when you listen to all the medias, you get some of the NGOs which are focused and which are pro the country.
Or pro-government?
Not pro-government, pro the country. Of course, the NGOs are of different categories. There are some of those which are foreign NGOs which help the local NGOs. And of course, if it is a foreign NGO, it has got its own mission, it has got its own intentions. And once you take on activities with them, you should be mindful of also the interests of your own country. And they do not impose some of their views on you. They only try
like homosexuality.
Homosexuality, of course, as you know, it's ungodly. It's ungodly.
Not even the animals do it.
No, not even in Europe. In Europe, I've been in Europe. I served in Europe. You don't get it.
It's not open. You don't find
it's not open. Even where they are in some of those pubs, it's dark. They disguise it
because they're ashamed of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the States, I have been there. It is
in the foreign service.
Yeah. So that one which you have mentioned, well, of course, fortunately, this country has not legalized it, and the two.
We think we should stay normal.
Yeah, I'm glad you have said the right thing.
And not queer. And Simon, talk to us about political advocacy. Are NGOs, is there a category that can do political advocacy?
No, if we...
Term limits and so on. No, that's a no-go area. Leave it to the politicians.
No, I mean, if you want citizens to know their rights, their civic rights, that is okay. That's civic rights.
Yes.
Yeah, those are those are proper areas that NGOs can propose. If you want to expose to bad practices, those are good.
Corruption.
But when you start deciding personalities and say this is good, I think that is different. And in this country, we have the political organization, which specifically specifies what is a political party and how you can do it, and and all the rest. So it's detailed that. So I think it's clear.
No political advocacy. Leave that to the people.
No, if you want that one, then
you join a
political party.
Can NGOs fund political parties?
No, they.
No, because initially what you have just mentioned, NGOs are supposed to be helping the community. NGOs are supplementing the efforts of government, where the government is not able to reach. So how can they support certain political activities? They can't, because, and I have been...
Well, some political parties could carry out civic education, and an NGO might support them.
Political parties, are registered under Political Organizations Act, and they are normally monitored by Electoral Commission. And the Electoral Commission has got its own mandate within which a political party can carry out its own activities and so forth. Currently, of course, you can. And FDC is carrying out its own political program.
And also the underlying principles of the NGO sector, remember, is that it is non-partisan,
yes,
political, it's a charity. So there is no way they can go out of those principles and start politicking. So it's difficult for them to, it's not good unless individuals join parties. It's normal for members of NGOs to belong to parties, but they shouldn't bring this when they are serving this sector. The colors of their parties, their biases.
Have you had some of them crossing the red line there?
No, sometimes actually a good example, if you look like this walk to work.
Yes.
There are some NGOs who have put some of their activities.
Well, they might want to give people mineral water as they walk on the street. Is that wrong?
No. Because if I am a politician, I can tell you, as a politician, I have my own interest.
Yes.
And my own interest may not necessarily be your interest, but I can engulf you to come and help me to achieve my own interests.
All right, let's go for a break. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're going for a break. We'll be back. Do stay tuned.
What? That's my son! Yes!
Hey, what's going on?
Peter has won gold!
What? From where? I thought the Olympics were over.
Hey, Mom! I said I won a Barclays golden briefcase.
He says it came in a briefcase! Yes! Peter!
It's the Barclays Grace for Gold. 220 million shillings worth of prizes to be won in 101 golden briefcases. Open an account or make a minimum deposit of 1 million shillings with Barclays for a chance to win a loaded Barclays golden briefcase. 10 briefcases to be won every week until the 30th of November 2012. Terms and conditions apply. Bank with Barclays today.
Let's get this started.
Discover the new invigorating taste of Red's Vodka Lemon. Red's Vodka Lemon. Reinvent the night. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Excuse me, guys. Let me through, please.
Yes.
Check this guy. Goodness, dude, what are you doing? Get real.
Just move.
Just what?
A little bit. Man, what are you doing bringing a cow into the sitting room? It's just for when I want milk.
Just what?
Just please move. Let it come and sit here.
Show me this guy.
You cannot keep a cow in your home, but you can get the freshness of its milk straight from the farm into your home. Get fresh dairy milk for freshness straight from the farm every day. Fresh Diary, so fresh.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. What does government expect from non-governmental organizations considering the provisions in the National NGO policy? Our guests tonight, Ambassador Gabriel Kangwage, Chairman of the National NGO Board at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and Mr. Simon Nangiro, Acting Secretary of the NGO Board at the same Ministry of Internal Affairs. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Simon, the Office of the Prime Minister is the overall coordinator of the NGO policy. How have you survived this cloud that we've heard about?
Thank you. The Office of the Prime Minister is the leader of, you could say, government business. And so they are the ones which coordinate policy. Their task is to see to it that we put these policies and implement them. Yeah, of course, we have heard what is going on currently, and of course, none of us is happy about it. We are all embarrassed because we work for government, and that is portrays us negatively. In fact, that is immoral, and of course, we are not happy about it. But of course, in every society, you will always not have people who are straightforward. You will think you are thinking this way when you have others. But nevertheless, what we want is we want to promote institutions. And we don't want anarchy. We can't say that because that has happened, then we need to crumble all our institutions. So I think we have to give a chance to other mechanisms in order to...
For the record, I'd like us to really get this out of the way. For the record, your office is clear. It's not been sucked into this mess.
No.
Not even, you didn't even find... So a man found 14 billion on his bank account. He said an angel had put it there from heaven. None of that thing has happened. Let's talk about this evaluation. Ambassador Kangwage, you are undertaking an evaluation. Talk to us about that.
And well, what sort of evaluation?
Are you carrying out an evaluation? You want to ascertain how many NGOs are in your...
Oh yes, we are carrying out to updating of the NGOs. Because when they were registered way back, some of them have ceased to exist. Some have finished their assignments and have closed their business and so forth. So we are updating and we are doing some data entries so that we know which ones are still operational. And two, we are trying also to put them in various categories. Those which are involved in health, those which are involved in agriculture, those which are involved in environment, those which are involved in health, and so forth, so that we know their categories. And this will help in planning, because whatever we are doing, everything is factored into development plan. And most of our NGOs are working at the local level, both at the sub-county level, at the village level, at the district level. And at the district level, there is a government. And at the sub-county level...
Even other RDCs.
Yeah, the other RDCs are part of the central government. So whatever they are doing should be captured within the development plan of those governments. And then they are mainstreamed within the national development plan.
So you're undertaking an audit?
Yes, we are undertaking an audit, and we are going we shall go around. We are going to, first of all, to disseminate this information, this policy, which, by the way, this policy was very widely consulted on by the stakeholders, who are the NGOs, who are both civil societies and NGOs, government, the public, academia, and so forth. So it was protractedly carried out. Now, what came out was a policy which was agreed on, which was launched by the Prime Minister in July this year. And now it is our duty to make sure that those who contributed to this policy are informed of their own policy.
Right.
And we are taking it to them.
And it's a brand new policy, only passed in 2010.
Yes, it's a new policy, 2010.
Simon, do you sometimes work with the NGO board and Deneva? Have you heard of them in the first place?
Yeah, we know Deneva is a network of local indigenous NGOs. We work with them in a number of ways. Actually, in most cases, we consult them. They are representative of that constituency of NGOs, and they do some work. For example, they have had studies which documents the contribution of that group of NGOs, which is good, which has given us information, and at least is a formal documentation, contributes to the formal documentation of what NGOs contribute in this country.
And do they report to you every hour, every so often?
No, they bring their annual returns or annual reports to us, which you receive on an annual basis.
And you appraise them?
Yeah.
So when you look at them, what do you normally have? What do they do, most of them? Do they do agriculture, health, what? Advocacy?
No, they are a network of so many NGOs. So they do what they are...
Now I'm talking about, forget about these networks, the Denevas and NGOs. The NGOs themselves, they report you on an annual basis?
Yeah, they...
What do they do? When you look at your database, where are most of them found? Agriculture, health, education?
Most of them are in livelihoods, which is agriculture, you could say, because you have some of them are doing cropping, some of them are supporting livestock, some of them are supporting fisheries, some of them are supporting income generation, which is all contribute to livelihoods. The majority of them are there. The majority also, secondly, are in education and health.
So you have a lot of NGOs doing agriculture?
Yeah, there are so many of them, actually.
How about geographically? Where are they located most? If you want to look for them, where do you?
Geographically, they are in you could call it problem areas. We have had, for example, the north, where there had been war had been raging there for last over 20 years. So many NGOs are there, and the northeast Karamoja area, which has been also in conflict for some. Many of them are there, and then you have had also areas, disaster-prone areas like the Elgon area, Bula area. Most NGOs are there, and in western Uganda, where we have had cases of refugees. So that's
near the border.
Yeah,
and Raqqa.
Yeah,
it's got a heavy concentration of NGOs.
Yeah,
because of AIDS. It was the epicenter of AIDS.
Yeah, exactly.
So when they deal mostly in agriculture, do you find cases of abuse of funds by some of these NGOs?
We have had cases where they themselves sometimes come complaining about that, and we have resolved them amicably, and we have advised them on what they ought to do and to put in place mechanisms at least which minimize the abuse of funds. But some of them are there. There are few mainly, and in most cases these are, you will find this lack capacity. You will find, for example, if you look at their systems, the principles of natural justice are not there. It's actually like you are talking about the Pentecostal churches, for example. You will find the pastor is also the manager in the managing maybe the wife is the treasurer. So in such a case, it's difficult, to separate, even to protect yourself from the pulpit. So in most cases, that's why you find most local NGOs don't have. For example, you compare to international NGOs, which are highly very organized, you'll find policies in place, the board is different, HRUC, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Let's talk about Accord, Ambassador Kangwage. There's a time they had a problem, they had to undertake an audit of their funds. Why? Give us some detail on that.
Well, I don't know why you mention Accord.
Well, it's a policy think tank. You have to scrutinize their accounts. You haven't done that.
It is not the only NGO who have done that. As Simon has been mentioning, we've got a monitoring department. This monitoring department checks on NGOs whether they are doing the right job or they are not doing the right job. And we don't even, of course, they are supposed to declare their budgets.
Yes.
When they are being registered, and when they are having an MOU, memorandum of understanding with the areas they are going to operate in, they are supposed to declare their budget. Nobody is going to touch their money, but we would want to know what activities they want to engage in. So when you mention a code being audited or being, no, we don't.
All right.
So
we never audited them.
No, we never audited them. And
somebody else. Would they tell you if CID, for instance, wanted to audit them? Would they
I think
look at their bank accounts?
No, the Central Bank of Uganda, under its act, can look into anybody's account.
Yes.
Including all business entities. So it is the only institution with even probably police when there is a case where they, when the court has taken decision that you please investigate this case. But as far as the board is concerned, we don't go into those activities of looking at the people's accounts. No, we only ask you how much money do you want to spend on these activities. You may mention this and the MOU which you have entered into with the given authority of the area where you are going to operate, and purposely it's not to distort the budgetary system of that district or of that sub-county.
They might pour too much money.
Yes, and if NGOs, and I think this is very important for us as Ugandans, if there is too much inflows into the country where the government may not be making a track of the inflows. Inflation. Macroeconomic development.
Like it happened after the elections last.
Absolutely. So I think the government is duty bound through its agency, which is Central Bank, to make sure that all the inflows are known. And that's why, as a board, we ask you, what is the budget
outlay?
All right. And what activities are you going to engage in? And what they do also help is we don't want a duplication. We don't want a distortion.
Doing the same thing in the
same thing. Because you may have a government, a local government, having budgeted to put 100 boreholes, and then you come and you put 100 boreholes, and
it's duplication. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make
sense. They might as well do something
and
else.
Of course, as he has mentioned, of course, there has been a concern that how would we redistribute NGOs so that the entire country
is spread out well.
It's spread out
like
well.
the RDCs, one for each district. Let's talk about, do they engage in economic activities? Are they allowed to do that, yes or no?
The
NGOs.
Yes.
They're allowed to engage in economic activities?
Absolutely.
If they went to a place and they found gold under the soil, they might deal with it.
No, but then they will change. Then they will have to register under URSD, Register of Companies.
Oh, separate from the church.
Separate from us. Ours is non-political and non-profit-making ventures. So when you register,
you find gold in a certain corner.
No, when you find gold in a certain corner, then you go to the agencies which can register you. Then with us, we shall not be responsible for whatever you will be doing.
Okay, you are reporting.
Yeah, in that case, what they can do, for example, is to support the vulnerable groups in that community, maybe how to benefit from that gold.
All right.
It could be maybe giving them some small assets to start off. It is all to raise some of the issues,
right,
or which the local community might not be able to see.
Or if somebody is exploiting those minerals unfairly, they can advocate.
They do advocate.
That's how they can.
Mr. Nangiro, why is it that traditional churches, Anglicans and Catholics and Muslims register under a different place and the Pentecostals register under your board as though they were NGOs? Why do you discriminate?
No,
don't discriminate.
We are not discriminating. It's just a historical accident. These churches came here before the NGO Act was enacted in 1989, and so they used the existing laws to register
the Catholic churches.
Yeah, the Catholic churches trustees with the Ministry of Lands. So that is why they are registered there. And these churches, which emerged in the 80s, and late 90s got when the NGO Act was there.
Of course, they were there before in the 1930s, but Idi Amin banned them.
Yeah.
Then they returned during military borders.
Yes. Yeah, of course. You are.
So they're also traditional, but they were banned and they had to return after some time.
But if you want, again, the other thing, probably why they are not in the limelight, these traditional religions are very organized. If you look, for example, like the Catholic Church, they have the arm which they call Caritas, and those ones usually register with us. If you look also at the Anglican, they have the what they call the development arm, or the Asian development, whatever. Those ones register with us, and this actually protects the clergy. You know, gives them they
can preach with fire on Sunday.
Yeah, they can preach properly without really being suspected and say, no, this manager maybe stole my money or something. They remain only at that level of policy.
Spiritual leaders.
Yeah, they become spiritual leaders and only members of their development boards. And there they can exercise the principle of natural justice. They can fire their managers of NGOs, this corruption and etc. Compared to these other cases of most of these born-again churches, where you find the pastor is also the manager, the wife is the treasurer,
yes,
and etc. So in such a case, when there is
and the eldest son is something,
it becomes very difficult for even the community to trust the pastor and say, no, you are saying God says you know theft, but we know that you are this. So it's one of the things actually we advise them that please try to follow the example that the old churches, religions have set.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can call in now. Our number 0414 348 111, 0312 260 0312 226 1390. Spectrum, hello.
Hello, this is Stephen.
Yes, Stephen.
Yeah, I wanted to know whether the experience of that kind of publish all the individuals that work in Uganda, and second, if you are registering an NGO, do you know whether it is a briefcase or a jail card? Because some people just come to your ministry, register and go. So, lastly, you as a ministry, how effective do you monitor these NGOs? Do you monitor them or you hear them going? Because some people call them NGO, they say means nothing going on. We know that there are some NGOs that are doing some work, but I want to tell you that you have been seeing corruption. Most of these NGOs are not known. They cannot even work beyond one distance, but they are registered with you. And where did you come now to speak about them when they started demonstrating against corruption? Why did you come earlier, publish them, we know them, and what they do, and their mandate? So this thing coming out like my colleague at OTM was always to come to communicate to people in corruption, but you can't communicate until the public how much money has been sent to the host. So when they did it, we know how much they have spent and what is the spending. So now we don't know these are missionaries, explorers, traders.
All right, that will be answered. Spectrum, hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir, your name?
Yes, my name is Irene.
Irene, you're welcome, Spectrum.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the program.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank the gentleman who was there, but to also say something which I do quite agree with. The point that was made earlier, that NGOs are not meant to be political, and therefore the challenge that the board has is the NGOs that become political. I think that is not quite correct. The reality is that if you're dealing with issues to do with resources, and you're challenging conclusions, decisions that are made by people with power, this is a political issue. The difference is that the actions of NGOs that you advocate is political, but it is not partisan. So we don't take sides with a particular political party as members of those parties. If something is done wrong by one group, you will say that it is wrong. And that is something that's political, but you will not always support one party over the other. You will not partisan. Next time when a different group, a political party, for example, does something that we agree with, we will support that action. So it is an issue of it's a principle that is support, and that is political. I think it is really not correct, and it is not misleading to tell Ugandans that NGOs are not supposed to be political. We're not supposed to to take up a position for the particular political party, but you take up an issue, and that issue may actually be an issue that a particular political party is in agreement with, but unfortunately that person being regarded as being political or impartisan. And then secondly, the issue about the whole voter corruption. Really, the laws of this country say that citizens have got a right to engage and you must have a responsibility to engage in civic matters. Many of us, part of NGOs, are also citizens of this country. And we have a responsibility, not just the right to do that for the good of our country, as far as to do that Uganda in a positive way. This issue about asking for permission in order for one to have, for NGOs to have activities. I guess why the government has decided to ignore a case decided by the Constitutional Court in 2008, which was only the Macquarie Program, where the Constitutional Court held that the section of the Police Act, I think it is section 28 or 31, and that section that requires NGOs to get permission, police permission to go to assemble, is unconstitutional.
Right.
What they say is that according to the Constitution, what would be correct for organizations to inform the police,
right,
so that they are able to carry out their function of keeping law and order. But it is informing them, but informing, notifying parties, but not the
getting from,
the NGO forum and the member actually notify the police before the Monday meeting. And the local officers found received by the police.
Okay, Madam Ogonji, thank you. Spectrum, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
My name is Paul. All I want to mention that there are 10,000 NGOs. True, the 10,000 NGOs. True that only 20% are functional. Why? Because about 80% are restricted NGOs. But if you say the NGO is relatively restricted because you're only a Christian, until when you get funding, then you get an office offensive. Then the prayer comes up, and soon after the funding, then the funding goes to the Christian. So the NGOs are inherently an outthing away from the Christian. The second thing is that these NGOs are almost, as I mentioned, 95% Ugandan NGOs. Even some Australian, Ugandan NGOs. As a matter of Uganda, all programs run, whether it's an advocacy program, is designed by Uganda. In Uganda, who may have issues, or who may have the hand, or who may have the voice.
Alright, let's get back to the studio. Ambassador Kangwage.
Well, thank you very much. I think, of course, the first question and the third question seem to have a correlation. Certainly, although there are 10,000 registered with us as of now, but not all of them are functional. And that's why we are carrying out an evaluation. And that's why we are trying to, even this policy which is being now disseminated, trying to help us. The NGO board, if you want to know, in the past only was headquartered in Kampala. But the policy is bringing in a new element so that at sub-county level and at district level we have monitoring committees which will give us information. The board, which was enacted in 1989 and of course amended in 2006, its annual budget does not exceed 200 million shillings.
It's a very tiny thing.
Very, very tiny. And this is what we...
You can't even get nice cars.
Forget about nice cars, but even the certificates which we give to the NGOs, it is from that fund, and it is very strenuous. So, it is not until the NGOs, the whole civil society, instead of now going here and there, they need to support their regulatory bodies so that it is functional. So the advocacy should now go to Parliament to make sure that the budget to the board is enhanced. So they don't have the we don't have the capacity. Yes, we have.
I can't even buy you vehicles.
We have only 2 vehicles. One of them was given to us by the minister as he was leaving the ministry. He just gave it to us. And the other one, out of this small mega budget, we bought a van. And they cannot move countrywide. So the briefcase NGOs, of course, do exist. When you up country, the respective district authorities have recommended, or the line ministries have recommended, we as a board, we take their recommendations to be genuine and we register them. I want to inform the viewers, even the school children now, because of lack of employment, they come to the board. They say, we want to register an NGO.
And what do you do?
And
you give them a permit?
You first of all counsel them. They say, but we don't have employment. And you say, but an NGO is not going to give you employment.
You don't even have briefcases to be.
And some of these NGOs, and I want also to let the viewers know, they are appended to donors.
Yes.
They themselves do not have enough financial base. They don't. So once they register, they tell you, they harass you, they say, I want to take the certificate to the donor to get the funding and what have you. And of course that funding is conditional. So we don't have the capacity, and that's why we have briefcase NGOs, which sometimes are non-existent, or some of them are exploitive to the community. I want to Irene Ovonji to me. Yes, of course, we are all concerned as citizens. First of all, you don't need to belong to an NGO to engage your political leader. Because when a political leader comes to your constituency and is looking for votes and what have you, one of the charges you need to put to him or her is, what are you going to do for me?
Yes.
You don't need to get under the umbrella of an NGO to go to Parliament and express your views as an ordinary citizen of the country. So this, what you are talking about, all Ugandans, we need civic education to know that the people know their roles and have their views. Most of these political leaders who come to you and you elect them, some of them are elected purely because they have given you handouts.
Oh.
Yes, they have given you handouts.
Sugar in
yes, they have given you sugar, they have given you soap, or others have, you have helped them, pecuniary and so forth.
Okay.
So, at the end of the day, you find a problem.
Okay.
I was in the north, and I was in a place called, it was in Kitogum,
yes.
And in one of the sub-counties, they elected an MP 4 years down the road. He had never gone back.
Oh, he was busy in that city.
Yeah, he headquartered himself in Kampala.
Okay, our time is up. We have to go. Mr. Nangiro, well, with this timing of this this review, why do you do it now when corruption becomes a topic?
No, I think we had already booked this time before even the NGOs acted. And as we told you, I don't want to give that impression that the government is rigid. Government is aware of that the NGO sector is growing, and it's trying to put in place an enabling environment for
Tell them
so that's why the NGO policy 210 was passed,
and you have to disseminate it.
To disseminate it, and then eventually we should harmonize it with other laws. It establishes institutions countrywide, district-wide.
We have to go.
Yeah, so it's a normal process, whether this was there or not.
Thank you very much, dear guests. Ambassador Gabriel Kangwage, Chairman of the National NGO Board at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight, sir. Mr. Simon Nangiro, Acting Secretary of the NGO Board at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Kizito Spectrum. We'll be back tomorrow.
It's the time again.